This is episode 4 of the Enough to Spare podcast. Here, we help normal people overcome the overwhelm of emergency preparedness, food storage, financial literacy, spiritual growth, temporal and spiritual preparation, and physical and emotional resilience by sharing practical and tactical tips for systematically becoming self-reliant. We are your hosts, Logan Johnson and me, Val McQuiston. In today's episode, we're talking about solar power. When does it make sense? What to consider when looking into it? Battery backup options? Why you should always get 3 quotes? And how they expect you to pay for it. We're glad you're here and hope you discover 1 or 2 things that you can do today to ensure that you always have enough to spare. Oh, and while you're here, will you please consider those in your world that could benefit from these principles and then share this episode with them? You never know when your invitation to listen will change their life. Someone, someday, may very well thank you for being so bold. All right, welcome back. Another episode of Enough to Spare, the podcast. Here with Logan Johnson and Val McQuiston. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about power sources and things to consider specifically in the solar space. We installed solar panels in my house a few years back, and Logan has questions. So this will be a little bit more of an interview format.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. You know, as I think we've mentioned before, there's a council to have 1 year's worth of fuel. Or at least there has been. I don't know if that's reiterated very much these days. But as I looked at how to solve that problem, there was a few different ways I looked at it. I thought about doing wood. I've got some extra propane. I think I have like 6 of those, decent size, the barbecue size propane tanks.
5-gallon tanks or whatever they are. Yep.
And I've just cycled through those, and I found those last a long time as long as you keep them covered and away from, a building structure or something that could blow up or start on fire. They can last decades, And so I just sort of cycle through those. We do a good bit of barbecuing on our flat top grill.
Yeah.
Out, smash burgers and that kind of thing. So we make it through usually 2.5 in the summer of barbecuing. And so I sort of cycle through them that way. And then I bought a whole bunch of charcoal. I don't know how long does that last.
Doesn't have a permanent shelf life. It gets like oil. I guess it depends on if it's pure lump charcoal or if it's the briquette that's manufactured. Do you remember? Is it
briquette? It's like the one you buy in the 20 bag.
Those, in my experience, with what I do for work, we do a lot of cooking, and the briquettes, the older they get, tend to be super smoky and smelly, and they still ignite for a while. I haven't ever had them not ignite, but they get.
How old is old?
Even just a few years, that seems to kind of struggle.
Okay. Well,
maybe it was just that brand.
Yeah.
I think that was Royal Oak that struggled. Maybe Kingsford. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, and I tried to go through them through Dutch ovening, but my family could only handle so many of my crappy Dutch oven. That's probably for another day. Those were the worst recipes. But anyway, as I was looking at fuel for a year, one thing that keeps coming back that makes more and more sense, especially as time goes on, is solar panels. Yeah. And I feel like in the online prepper community, there's sometimes a little bit of a backlash against solar because like an EMP or something could go wrong. But I don't know that I buy that argument. I feel like it's a great solution. And especially, in my opinion, if it's coupled with batteries, even if it's not, I'm sure there's some utility. But when you couple it with batteries, it becomes a fantastic preparedness and, self-sustaining type of solution. So Val took the plunge in solar panels. I got close a couple of times. I got a bid from, what was the company? Solar City, I think before Tesla bought it or something. And I was fighting with the fire marshal and the permitters, and I wanted the panels just right, and it didn't work. So I pulled the plug on it. And I kind of regret it because the prices kept climbing like crazy.
Do you remember what your estimate came in at?
14 with a Tesla battery.
Was that before incentives, or that was
after?
Okay.
Yeah, that was after incentives. I know, and I'm kicking myself. I was like, "Dang, dude, you could." And we had the cash, and we were going to do that, but
you're not going to like my answer.
anyway,
we'll build up some tension to that moment. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, good. Good. A little sneak peek there. Okay. So anyway, we're going to talk about Val's experience, though.
Yeah.
And first off, Val, how long did you think about doing solar, and sort of what was the thought process leading in to the decision to buy a solar system?
To your point, it always kind of been, what am I missing about solar? A little bit of it seemed too good to be true. The tax incentives were interesting. I guess I was just hesitant for price. Like it's a major investment regardless of what size you do it. So I wasn't excited about throwing a whole bunch of cash at it. I was worried about, you have to clean it. Like, is it just a maintenance nightmare?
Right.
The battery thing was kind of a newer thought to me. I thought like, well, cool, during the day that works, but what about night? So I hadn't really considered the batteries part of it. But yeah, I guess it always felt like a little bit of a get rich quick scheme in general, because that's where all the people that I was, friends with seemed to made their money, was going around selling solar. Like, look, if they're making a killing at it, there's got to be some catch to it in terms of, as a consumer,
right?
What don't I know about it? Why is it so expensive? The DIY never really crossed my mind. You had mentioned the engineering, the permitting, that all. Just in general, those things bother me, both in principle and in practice.
You mean like having to get a permit?
How am I doing this? Who am I calling? Hey, it's your business, so you know a lot more about than I do. But I grew up, my dad's a general contractor. I know that these things are important, but it's not like there's a system where you're like, hey, I need solar panels, make it happen,
Yeah.
Which I think is ultimately where people are making money in solar. Is it's the easy button, and you pay the easy tax, because they're going to be the one-stop shop for all of it.
Yeah.
So that's eventually where it came for us. I had a family member who was looking to get into it, and so they were like, can I just give you a quote and just get a referral and whatever. And I was like, sure, it's a quote, not going to hurt anybody. So I got a quote, and that conversation went pretty well in terms of the sales process, I guess. Like, he had all the answers to my questions. It was the easy button, just, we'll size it for you. You just sign here, and all of a sudden it'll show up. And then, we'll help you with the money part of it, answer any questions you have about that. And so it really was the easy button. And it felt, we were coming out of the pandemic. We had the earthquake thing. Right. We've had here in our neighborhood, we get those windstorms every few years that knock power out. And I had looked into a whole home generator, LP or propane versions of those. And our house the line coming in isn't big enough to support
the
that
natural gas
and the rest of the house. So we'd have to upgrade that.
Oh my word. You have to go out to the street.
I don't know exactly what it would require. I know in the house was going to be a problem as far as getting enough gas just for the appliances that we have. When we updated our kitchen, the guys who came and did the gas for it were like, you're pretty much at capacity with what you have. In fact, I think we have a 6-burner stove, and they were like, you might not get the output that you'd like. So that was on my mind. And then right after the pandemic, I called one of the generator companies to be like, can I get a quote? And they're like, yes. And just so you know, the starting point is whatever, 10 or 12 grand. And that was 5 or 6 years ago before they were super popular. So I knew, one, it was going to be expensive. Two, that doesn't really have any off-grid capacity outside of whatever the gas can deliver. And I'm not super concerned in a catastrophic event we wouldn't eventually have gas, but there would be an interruption potentially. For sure. That was a thought. So I kind of ruled that out, though I'd still like one at some point. If we win the lottery, I'll put one on my house for sure. Deal. So solar became the answer that we pursued, and it was a really easy button to press. Yeah.
So you ended up going with the company that your friend or your relative had referenced?
Yeah. Yep. And that would be my first piece of advice, is get a couple of bids like anything and just see if they're competitive. Yeah. I guess I assume that they're all competitive at this point because of how many people are out there doing it.
Yeah.
But I didn't find out. And if I were to do it again, I would have gotten at least 3 quotes. Never hurts.
Yeah.
My guess is they're all going to be within a few grand of each other, and there's probably some reason to do business with one than the other.
Right.
But that's one thing I would have changed initially, is just getting a few quotes to make sure.
You ended up getting batteries in your system, is that right?
We did.
Why?
So one, there was a really great tax incentive at the time
To get the battery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. It was practically free by the time you got the tax incentive back.
Oh, yeah.
And so that kind of solved the generator overnight problem. Yeah. You can manage your system however you want. Most batteries that in this space, whether it's in a Tesla or a wireless thermometer or your house, they have kind of a preferred capacity where they want to drain and refuel and drain and refuel. They don't want to be at empty very long, and they aren't super healthy if they're full all the time. So, but it is nice to have that. I think we keep it at about 75%.
Do you constantly fluctuate? Like, are you using it, or is it just?
It's a setting. Yeah. In the app, you have multiple settings for the battery. Let me just pull it up here really quick. But in the battery management, you decide, do you want it backup only? Do you want it to be like full power to your house so that it's giving you as much off-grid power as it possibly can and then replenishing? That's nice for the money side of it.
That would probably degrade the battery faster?
Not necessarily, but it does leave you vulnerable in an outage.
Oh, that you're not at a healthy amount. Because you don't really know when outages
are coming. The system does try to look ahead. If there's a weather alert coming, it'll shut off some of that to maximize full power, which is nice. But the battery modes are maximize self-consumption, time of use, just so it's a specific time of use, manual control, you just do the time that you want it to run, or backup only. So we have it set to the maximize self-consumption, but make sure that you maintain 73% power.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how long do you think on your system, like summer, I assume you have a gas furnace in the house.
Right.
So summer is going to be your peak electricity usage. Do you feel like you have the juice to run the AC on a hot summer day?
Yes, but for a very limited amount of time.
Like less than a day.
Yeah. So I guess what I've learned in the process is the battery can do what it can do. You just decide how fast you deplete it by how much you're running off of it. So, when you think about main things you want to keep an eye on are fridges and freezers. We have a couple of those, in the garage and whatever. Lights, we have some lighting that we keep on a lot, accent lighting, whatever. They're LED, so you don't think it really pulls that much, but there's not really a lot of times to practice until the power's out, right? Yeah. But we had the power go out in the summer one time, and I had the AC on, and it was like watching.
You could see it drop.
Yeah. That's not going to last very long. But, you turn the thermostat way up, maybe it's like if you're normally at 70 and you put it at 78 or something, just to kind of keep the heat out. But, and if it's in the middle of the day, that's going to be, you've got more power to regenerate when the sun's shining.
The panels will be cranking.
Yeah. But at night, maybe it's, you go to 80 and you turn some fans on or something that aren't going to draw nearly as much power.
Right.
So that is certainly one thing I would do different. You really just decide how big the system you want is. And I would have probably done another, 10 panels. We ended up, I think, with 36, which was more than the system called for. They do a calculation to see how much you use, and they look at your average use, and they're like, hey, this is how much you need to kind of maintain general usage. And I was like, cool, can we add half a dozen to that? He's like, sure, no problem, it's your money.
Yeah.
But I probably would have added a few more, because the panels themselves aren't really the super expensive part. So
really?
Yeah, putting on a few more panels isn't going to be what's costing you a lot more.
What is it? Just the labor to?
It's the labor, it's the permitting, because you have essentially all the equipment, then you have the subcontractor, depending on who you use, that's going to be the electrician to come out and do the installs. Then you have the battery, and depending on which provider you go with, you're going to have different costs on equipment itself. So I think adding a few more panels, they're really not the expensive part of that. It wouldn't have added much, and it gives you more absorption during the day. And then I would have done at least 2 batteries.
You have one.
I have the one, yeah, and it's a big fella, but if your goal is to be totally self-sustaining, the more the merrier there. You just have to have a place to put it there. they're pretty darn heavy. Like it's a
Hefty.
a heavy 2 or 3 man lift. I'm not sure exactly how much they weigh, but everyone who I talk to in the building side of things is like they're ridiculously heavy. Yeah, those are two things I would do immediately right out of the gate is just throw on more panels. We ended up with 32 panels. They're 400-watt panels. Our system size is just under 13 kilowatts. The battery's a 10 kilowatt battery. So it's able to process all that, store some in the battery, and then the way a lot of people want to be like off grid, you can do that, but you do lose all the incentives because
Through Rocky Mountain Power.
Yeah, whoever your provider is, usually if you're off grid, you're not able to offer any back to the system.
Yeah.
So they don't give you any offset credits for it. And a lot of times it's the power company that is offering some of those tax rebates. Like ours was about 10% of the total cost was just the Rocky Mountain Power rebate.
Wow.
Then you had federal and state credits and those kinds of things. So, yeah.
I would assume if you built your own system and your own battery and you ran 100% off the grid, your cost per kilowatt hour would be way higher.
Yeah.
Than just because what is it like? What are we paying right now? Like 17 cents or 11 cents?
Oh,
or
I'd
something
have to look. Yeah, and it probably varies by season, right? You have that's
interesting
a thing.
But you're saying right now, if you could go back in time, you'd say, I wish we would have stretched a little more, got another battery, a few more panels.
Yeah.
Is that because of future loads that you expect on the system?
No, though I would be interested in that. We don't have any plans for a hot tub or something, but if you ever if you had a renovation in your house where you're finishing a basement or you're doing an addition or whatever, that's something to think about. I mean, most things are becoming more cost and energy efficient and not less, but if you ever want to expand things, that's something to think about. But yeah, it's mostly, I feel like what we have now is delivering on what they said. It's lowering our grid costs significantly and continues to do so over time. And it provides that backup power. So you can go, if there's an outage, you can just go and flip off, okay, I don't want these lights on. I don't want the dryer on right now. And you can just start to watch in the app how that impacts your usage. And then you can decide from there. So it's kind of hard. I mean, I get it from their point of view. I had the same question, like, is this going to support everything? And he's like, it would for some amount of time, but you just have to understand what's running and what season and how much light there is or isn't, if it's the middle of the night.
When you first got pitched on the deal, I feel like a lot of times a typical pitch is your bill is this much.
Yes.
And we anticipate that after we install the system, you'll still have some monthly fees you still have to pay to the electric company. And then if you finance with us, we're hoping to be the same as you were paying on a monthly basis.
Correct.
Was that part of the math when you?
Yeah, that was interesting to us. We don't love loans, right? But it is, I mean, our system, this is, when you talk about yours being 14 grand, our total cost was just under 60 grand.
I might be misremembering. I'll have to go back and double check.
I don't know. It just depends on when it was. But after rebates and incentives, the final cost, if you just take all of those rebates and incentives and put them right back in the loan, it would have come down to like about 35,000.
Okay, yeah.
So it takes a big chunk off to have all those incentives. And the way the loan works, to your point, is they try to maintain your payment amount. So they just go look and see, okay, here's your power bill. That tells us how much we need to size the system for and how much we're trying to match for your power, right? So that they take that and then they just adjust the loan to whatever, 13 years and 6 months or 24 years and 3 months or whatever.
Oh, they'll just stretch the length of the loan to whatever. Match it.
Yeah. I think they're mostly like a 4% loan because they're just like a kind of a construction loan essentially, but there's finance companies who specialize in that. So that's, again, to the point of if you're going, especially if you're going to finance it, to make the system a little bit bigger isn't going to increase your cost all that much, but it does give you some extra flexibility. One other thing probably to mention as far as the why is, if you remember back in the fires of California 5 or 6 years ago, the electric company ended up being found liable for that. And so they have to pay off all of these lawsuits and settlements to be able to pay for what their power system caused. But guess who actually pays that?
Taxpayer?
The users.
Oh yeah, because they'll just turn around and up the fees.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
As a semi-political intercession here, corporations don't pay taxes, nor do they pay for government mandates.
The customer
does. They just increase their prices to the customer.
Yeah.
So I have Amber's family's in California, and their power bills were just flying up with no cap. Like there's no cap that says, congratulations, we've reached the max.
Right.
You're just,
yes.
And we were watching our Rocky Mountain power bills go up and rate proposal increases.
Right.
And it's like, one thing I know is I will always have a power bill.
For real.
As a homeowner, you're always going to have a power bill. What I don't know is what it's going to cost every month, both between use and what they charge me for it. And I can only control one of those. Yeah. It's how much I use it.
But we know for darn sure they're going to, the price, it's not like they're going to lower prices.
It's not going down. Yeah. Unless we start seeing a whole bunch of nuclear power plants around, the power bill's not going down.
Right.
So literally there were people like their rates were doubling in California and still going up because there's still liabilities that they don't have funds for.
And that's a different power company than Rocky Mountain Power.
Yeah,
right?
PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric.
But you could deal with that here.
100%.
Something could happen, I work in development and these companies change hands. Like Questar Gas was Questar, then I don't know what idiot chose the name Dominion for a gas company, and now it's Enbridge.
Now
Rocky Mountain Power's Pacific Corp now, right? And so, who knows? It could change hands, and then pricing structures could be.
Yeah, these are for-profit businesses usually.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they have shareholders to account for and bottom lines to connect. So even if you do finance it, I guess something to think about as you're trying to justify if you don't have the money in the bank but you're looking to do it is whether you see it this way or not, you kind of are on a loan with the power company.
Yeah, for sure.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's a variable rate. Mm-hmm. You've heard of variable rate mortgages? Hello. That's what's going to happen with your power bill is it's just going to keep going up. So what solar does is you either pay for it and you start to watch your power bill come down. If you're staying connected, you'll eventually get down to a point where you have just the connection fee. It's like $20 or $30 a month. Mm-hmm. We were real close to that, and then our inverter went out. We'll talk more about that. Yeah. But then because we weren't harvesting the solar, our power bill spiked. And now we're still with the whole budget equalization thing. We're still trying to work our way back down.
Oh, geez.
But because it went out in like February and we couldn't get it resolved till like August. So it was like the peak season of harvest was gone and the peak season of use was in full force.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So when did you notice? It went out in February. When did you notice?
Yeah. So this is a little fun factoid for you. You would think that they might send an alert or something.
Yeah.
There's a problem.
Right.
Nope. Their company, their recommendation was you should just keep an eye on it occasionally. Like, well, that would have been great to know at the beginning instead of now. Yes. Because when you first get the system, it's a cool toy and you're looking at it and whatever. But after a while, you're like, it's the power.
Yeah.
Neat. So you're not looking at it all the time. But I went and looked at it one time after we replaced our Wi-Fi or something. And I wasn't here the day that they installed that part of it. So it turns out it's on a cellular system. It wasn't connected to my Wi-Fi. But I thought we updated our Wi-Fi. Maybe it's not connecting back. It's still doing what it's supposed to do, but it's just not reporting to me. But whatever. I'm sure it's working. I was busy and, life happened. But then I started getting power bills that were huge compared to, because I think when we started this deal, we were like $250 a month was the equalized whatever. And we were getting down to like $80 or something. Mm-hmm. Like it's doing what it's supposed to do. It takes time. You got to build up the credits and whatever.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you get like a $300 power bill. You're like, what?
Dang, Gina.
So that's when I called our installer. SolarEdge was who did it for us. They'd been in business for a long time. It's not like they were a fly by the night company, but I couldn't get my really after you sell it, it's hard to get back to the salesman, right? You're in there and with the customer service team, whatever. Mm-hmm. But they help you with the tax applications and the rebate applications, whatever. So I'd gotten to know his assistant, and she was a great help. And so I'm trying to get a hold of him. I'm trying to get a hold of her, and then I get a text from her one day that was like, "This business is closed. Sorry." Like, what? Yeah, he closed the business and moved to Idaho or whatever.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
So now what?
So
right?
so February goes out. When is this? When you finally get the?
By the time I started really digging into it, was like April
Yeah.
probably. Kind of when that first bill hit, when
Uh-huh.
you got AC running, whatever. And then it was just a wild goose chase after that.
Uh-huh.
Just trying to. So there was a sales guy and couldn't get a hold of him. The assistant, she's like, "Sorry, I got canned essentially."
Mm-hmm.
But then there was also the electrician who had as a subcontractor who did
Right.
the install,
Yeah.
and I had his contact number. Tried to get a hold of him. He had also closed down shop and moved to another state.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So there is no one to get in touch with. And SolarEdge is the system that we use. You had mentioned Tesla, right?
Right.
We use the SolarEdge system. And getting a hold of them, they're like, you have to talk to your installer. It's like, cool, but they're out of business.
They're gone.
So
Yeah.
what do we do? Well, we don't work directly with end users. We work with the installer. So you have to, I'm like, are you hearing what I'm saying? They're out of
Jeez,
business.
yes.
Who do I work with? Well, you could look. I mean, here's some companies in your area that use SolarEdge. Like, but my warranty's not through them. It's through who I went with and your hardware.
Right.
And like, well, that's about the best we can do for you. So I started looking at those organizations, and they're like, yeah, it's like $1,000 to come look at it, and then we'll just, and like, what? Just to
Yes.
come roll the truck out, and then who knows, what
Right.
it's going to take.
What was it that went wrong? What was the actual failure?
So there's a power inverter that they just fail occasionally, which is part of why they have warranties on all their equipment. I think ours has a 25-year warranty on all the hardware. So,
and it was the company you were calling SolarEdge.
Yeah.
It was a hardware failure.
Right.
But just because of the lost middleman, they weren't going to help you out.
Yeah. And it's not a DIY kind of thing as far as putting that in.
No. Yeah.
And you have to have, because of like the programming and stuff, you can't just have our next door neighbor, best electrician in the world, come do it because they don't have access to the system to update, serial numbers and whatever. So I was definitely in a rock and a hard place, and that's when I got Gephardt. Called
That's right, dude.
Bill Gephardt.
Senior or junior?
Junior.
Yeah.
So it's not Bill. It is, what's his name?
Brother Gephardt.
Yeah, Brother Gephardt. Anyway, Matt Gephardt. Matt Gephardt. I emailed in and was like, hey, here's the situation. I got an email back almost immediately from his producer. It was like, this is it, baby. Let's do it.
Well, good.
So Sloan was great to work with, and they came out, let me tell my story. I was still working with the SolarEdge people to try to figure something out, to escalate it, whatever. And it was Gephardt eventually, turns out when a media organization contacts your customer relations department,
that upgrades
all of a sudden people start calling you back, right? So that escalated the situation. And essentially what ended up happening is that the rep that I was working with said, I can't just send you the inverter. I've got to send it to an installer. And they sent it to the installer that had moved. And they sent it to his house.
In Montana or something
Well, it was in Utah. It was an Ogden address, but it was his house. And if you pull it up on Google Earth, it has a for sale sign in front, right? So they didn't send it to a business. They sent it to his house. I'm like, why don't you send it to my house?
Yeah, that's where it's going to be.
Yeah. So I got the exception, but they sent it to his house. And he's not here anymore, and the house is on the market or somewhere else. I don't know who the owner is. I'm not going to go knock on a guy's door and be like, hey, was there a box that showed up with a giant inverter in it? So I call them back, and they're like, look, we have the tracking. It arrived where it was supposed to arrive. I'm like, right, but not here.
What a corporate bureaucratic crap
totally
shoot,
the worst. Totally the worst. So again, Gephardt's kind of working his side of things. I'm on my side of things. And the stars kind of aligned. I got an exception because I can't try to remember how much the piece of equipment is. It's like $8,000 or $4,000, whatever the inverter is, plus install, plus all that stuff. Because the company who took all the money is not here anymore. So there's anyone else who's going to do it's going to charge you just their rates for installing a thing. Anyway, so they're like, well, under the circumstances, we'll send you a replacement for the replacement. Okay. And we'll ship it to your house.
Smart.
So it showed up. A few weeks later, the other one showed up.
Are you serious? It showed up at your house?
So what I think happened is I was able to get a hold of the electrician eventually. He said, well, I'm not there anymore, but here's a guy's number. Called that guy. They knew each other. And I think that he ended up retrieving the old one somehow. And then he brought that and installed that one. And then the other one that was the replacement ended up at my house. Fun fact, I tried to contact them to send it back, and they wouldn't take my call, essentially. So I've got a backup.
Just in case.
Just in case.
You should frame it on the wall, and you can always remember the circus of the inverter.
It's so big and so heavy. That would be it would take some probably re-engineering to be able to mount that in my house. But so I ended up having to pay an electrician, this guy's buddy, to whatever it was, a few $100 or $1,400 or something. I had to go look at it, but he came back and he installed it, got the system back up and running. We're able to. It took a while to reprogram things. In the process, when I was talking to the company about the replacement part, they're like, "How long has it been out?" I was
February.
like, "First of all, sir, shouldn't you tell me that? Don't you have the back end system on all this?" And that's when he gave me well, you should keep an eye on it. Anyway, he's like, I'm not so sure that battery's going to be any good anymore.
Oh no.
Are you kidding me? He's like, they're not supposed to go to zero and stay there.
Oh my gosh.
So that was, thoughts and prayers, trying to make sure that when everything booted up, it was going to still hold the charge.
And it did?
So far, so good. It's still under warranty too. Not that I have high hopes for any help there, but
yeah, for
real. Anyway, the system's up and running. I have since contacted another electrician who uses SolarEdge, and he has been at it for a long time and seems to have outlasted just about every other fly-by-night company, which has been nice because he's like, here's what I know about the system. Here's what typically goes out. Inverters are pretty common to go out. So, that we replace them. But he was able to, we needed an EV charger in our garage. That was part of the reason I like the battery too. Helped with that configuration. And he's like, you can use the SolarEdge integrated one, but they're way expensive and there's not really a lot of benefit as far as, it's not more efficient. It's not, he's like, so you can just put a Tesla or whatever brand you want on the wall and then just put that into your system like it's any other appliance.
Oh, cool.
And then you can, just run a 240 volt
right to it.
Yeah, and then plug that in, or if you want to switch it out to another brand, you can or whatever.
Yeah.
So
wow.
That install's happening on Monday after we get done here.
Who's the electrician? The same one that you used for the...
No, totally different guy. I started just looking around installing EV solar chargers, because it's one thing to just install a charger, but it's another thing to have the solar component.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy, after talking with him and having him come out and look at it, I feel so much more comfortable with him because of his history with the system and what he knows about it, and having worked with other systems. And I feel like I still have the right system in my house. Yeah. It's just, it does come down to provider. And if you have multiple, the bigger the company, it feels like the better here. Just
don't
because,
you think so?
You've got more likelihood of them surviving whatever storms go on in the solar world and being there to answer your calls.
Right. Wild. So thinking long term, what is maintenance like? What is maintenance on the batteries? Where do you have to go up and wash off the panels?
Not really. If they get excessively fouled, you might have to
How would you know? Just visually? Or would you look at the...
You can see in the app and see how efficient they are. But you can also just see them from the street. At least I can. But, we get rainstorms occasionally. We hope, again, at some point. Snow, interesting for the engineering on the roof. The panels, because they stay above the roof and mostly slide the snow off, it actually takes load off the roof because they almost weigh nothing. They're like aluminum brackets, and the panels, if you ever lift one, are super light. So they actually, it's kind of ends up being a benefit to your roof.
It extends the life of your roof.
Because now you're covering all the shingles.
Yeah, no UV.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you've kind of kept load off that typically stays there with snow and
because does it melt? Snow generally melts a little quicker.
Very quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a slippery surface, so it doesn't just stay there and take forever to melt. It usually, as soon as things start warming up, it all just kind of sloughs off.
You expect them to produce energy for 30 years reliably?
At least, yeah. I mean, they're warranted for 25 years or whatever.
And then beyond that's just however long they go.
Yeah, but my sales guy, he pulled up his app. He's like, mine are whatever they were, 15 years old or whatever, and they had hardly degraded
Still
at
cranking.
all. Yeah.
Interesting. I bet the battery would go before the panels.
Yeah, I mean, you're a Tesla guy. Battery tech's pretty good now. They've figured out a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
but yeah,
hopefully.
you're right. Probably the batteries, unless there were like a hurricane or something that crashed, broke panels.
Fair.
That's something to think about too. When you get the panels installed, you would probably want to talk to your insurance company to see if
Extra
they need
coverage.
to get extra coverage. Either I don't think we had a solar specific rider or whatever. It just like, okay, well, you've added some value to the house. We should probably adjust things anyway.
Just so that there's something there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, what else would you tell people, Val? What else would you want to make sure they hear if they're considering solar?
So solar, a few like prerequisites are important. The size of or the shape and direction of your roof
makes a big difference.
Yeah. There's some places where it really just doesn't make sense because your roof never points the right direction.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ways that they can tilt them up, and there's things that you can do to help with that. But that's a reality. All of our panels are all on one side of our roof. We have the whole other side of our roof that we could have put them on. That's why, in part why we could have had a lot more panels if we put them on both sides of the roof. So that matters. Also, how new is your roof?
Because you don't want to put it on a roof that's 25 years old, and then you put them on, you got to replace the roof.
You'd want to replace your roof before you put that. I mean, I don't know what a roof runs these days, depending on the size of your house, but 10 to 15 grand probably. But on a $60,000 system, you'd want the roof.
So you don't have to dig that all up and then do it again.
Because you can take them off, but you're going to pay someone for the privilege of doing that too, and the risk of damage and whatever.
Sure.
So yeah, make sure your roof is, and that they can look at a map really quick and tell you without even coming out. You just Google Earth it and say like, yeah, your roof's fine, or
oh wow,
yeah. So they can do that really quick. But then make sure you know your roof. Also, if you have a lot of trees, like if you like being under the radar, so to speak, they need light. So you
interesting, have to consider, because if they're blocking your roof, right? Oh, geez.
And then in general, part of the reason that solar is attractive is because of how many tax rebates there are. So make sure that there are some, because some of them expired. We'll see if they get replaced under the current administration. Probably not.
Yeah.
But also, you have to kind of be in a financial place where you're able to benefit from tax credits, because there's not like Rocky Mountain was a rebate, but everything else was tax credits.
So you have to be paying. You have to have enough large of a tax liability in the first place
for that to offset.
Yeah.
With the financing, the way at least they present it to us is the first 12 months it's a free whatever, it's deferred, right, for the first 12 months. But then the first few years of the loan, it re-amortizes once a year, in part to let you get those rebates and incentives in there, so it can, instead of keeping your payment high, it'll re-amortize and drop it down accordingly. So if you want to put part of it in, or all of it in, or extra in, whatever, those first couple of years it re-amortizes so that you don't have to just keep eating a higher payment if you put stuff into it.
And that kind of keeps that philosophy of whatever your utility bill is, we keep it under that, and then
or better.
Financially, I assume there's a down payment. There's like a loan to, really, you can 100% finance those bad boys. Okay, I can see why that's a compelling answer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to be paying electricity.
Exactly right.
Do you feel like it adds value to the house? Do you feel like you sold your house?
I think the jury's out on that. I think most people, it kind of is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
I think for some people it'd be like, and it has solar and a battery. And other people would be like, one more thing to break. For me, it's like on a minivan, the electric doors, like, cool, I can push the button.
Yeah.
Eventually one day it's going to break, and it's going to be way more expensive
to fix it
than if it was just a manual thing. But I think I don't think I'd be interested to see what a realtor's take on it is, but I don't think it's something that they would think is substantially significant in value. And if you still have a loan on it, you don't typically transfer it. You just include it in the total proceeds of the house to pay off your portion of the loan or whatever.
Right. Well done.
But then, man, that homeowner, it's not unlike buying a Tesla, where the previous owner bought the self-driving feature for you.
Screw you, Val.
Yeah.
Val just got himself a Tesla, and it conveniently came with a pre-purchase. So, that phenomenon's gone. I think in a couple of weeks you can no longer buy it outright.
Yeah, I think by Valentine's Day here in 2026, it'll be gonzo, and you're on subscriptions only at that point.
Trying to get Dad to pull the trigger, but we'll see. Yeah.
Just reminding him he's not getting younger.
That's right.
Cognitive abilities go one way or the other. You know what I mean?
Don't save your money for your spoiled, rotten kids, just live it up, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what his wife would do. Just kidding. Just kidding, Mom.
Other things here. Yeah, size, battery. The EMP thing, I guess, is always, that feels like such a large variable with just about anything we're doing except for the food.
Yes,
right?
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree.
I don't know the impact that it can, like, okay, so let's say an EMP comes. Does it destroy the lights? So even if you had power, it wouldn't turn back on anyway?
Right.
Does, a fridge turn back on an EMP? What do you
Mhm.
have to shield? How do you... So that, I guess, to me, the EMP is the great variable that I just can't account for in this system.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, it's up, it's running. I feel like what's going to fail has, and or we now have a good means of getting back to them
Yeah.
to replace it. But that's something to think about. Another thought was our system, our existing electric system was pretty aged. This house was built in the 80s, and it's kind of hard to find the right breakers to fit for it anymore. The box is getting older, whatever.
Yeah.
We after we installed a couple years after, we wanted to get some outlets out back for like charging the kids' scooters and stuff.
Yeah.
And the electricians all came out, multiple quotes here, right? And they're like, so there's not really a way to upgrade what
You're
you
tapped
have.
out.
Yeah, you'd have to do a full like replace of your box, and that's $3 or $4 grand.
Oh, geez.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But again, if you're financing it, this is just something to think about. If you're financing
You
it
could
anyway,
lump it in.
you could increase, because it's just a consumer loan, right?
Right.
So you can say, hey, I actually want more than that or whatever.
Interesting.
And you could put that in as a part of it if you wanted to not pay out of pocket.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about battery power management. That's just, you get to choose. And unfortunately, there's not a good time to practice
Right.
until there's an outage. And then
Right.
you have to just kind of play around. So I guess have a checklist ready of, okay, power's out.
Turn
Let's
this
try some
off.
stuff. Yeah. Which is what a lot of people do if they have a generator where they just put a transfer switch in by their power box and they have a generator. They turn everything off in the house,
and then only
turn the generator on, and then you go through and turn stuff on until it pops the breaker.
Oh, I see. I see.
So
Interesting.
it's same concept. You just don't pop the breaker. You just watch the battery dive.
The rate.
Yeah. So again, DIY I didn't really consider. I've done construction, and I'm fine letting other people do that.
Yeah.
Especially the electrical work
For sure.
and permits, engineering,
Yes.
that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think all in all, I would do it again. I would make it bigger. The cost just to make it bigger isn't that much more.
Mm-hmm.
And if the incentives are there, I look at our neighbor up the street here. She has most of her stuff on the outside of her house. Like my battery's in my garage, my inverter's under but you can see she's got 2 batteries I'm jealous of. She's, and she has not quite double the panels we have, but she's got a lot of panels. And, then we have another neighbor who did more of the DIY. He bought a used system and hired an electrician to come wire it up.
Yeah.
So I never got the full cost on what that ran him, but I'm sure it's significantly less expensive.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, you kind of have to pre-qualify yourself. Are you in the position where you can get the solar? Is your roof in a place? I don't think he did it all for the tax credits. He was just doing it for the extra power boost. And, it does feel like it'll pay itself off over time. It's just, is that in 2 years or 10 years or 30 years? But there is, that the end game is you essentially don't have a power bill, save for like the connection fee, which allows you to have access to power if yours breaks. Like if ours had broken and we weren't on the grid, who knows how long we would have been without power until we could find an inverter and install it.
Sort of the reverse backup system. Interesting. I would never want to encourage people to go into debt, but some things that make this something worth consider is, like we said, you always are going to be paying a power bill. You can't buy a power company. You're always going to be paying a power bill, and this puts sort of those future financial impacts in your hands more.
Correct.
Most people have not paid off their homes and they already have a mortgage on it, and you can sort of lump it in with that.
Yep.
And then lastly, we always have to pay property taxes, so do you really own your house anyway? And so just in terms of long-term cash flow, could be a great option, The only idea I had is, do you try to go invest the money you would put in? Well, you didn't have to put anything down. Okay.
And you have a 12-year I mean, you're still paying your power bill, those first 12 months, but at least with the financing option they presented, you'd have those first 12 months of deferred payment, so you could be accumulating in
a
that
little extra
period
money
too.
there. Yeah.
Think about that.
Wow, that's fascinating. And I guess that probably just depends on the loan.
Yeah.
But I would assume financing's only gotten more sophisticated and easier over time.
Yeah, and tailored to that market. Right?
Solar, yeah, fascinating.
And I would imagine I think we've seen this with the Tesla market. Me just jumping into it. There was that tax rebate or tax refund, I guess, whatever it was, that expired, and you just see market corrections with values. I think it's been a little bit slower, but yeah, because essentially it was $4,000 of free money for a used car, so I think that just elevated the prices across the board.
That's exactly.
And then when that goes away, the market has to correct a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. Well, good. So if you're going to do it,
go big.
Yeah, go big. And if it goes south, call Gephardt and see if you can.
Yeah. So get at least 3 quotes. Understand the size of your company matters, and the low ball might not be in your best interest if it's a fly-by-the-night company that's not going to be here to take your warranty calls. But I haven't looked around, obviously, since we had ours, but I'm sure there are other manufacturers outside of SolarEdge, so you could do your homework on that and maybe have one of your quotes be specifically a different provider, just so you have an idea of
to split it up so you're not really going down the same chain.
Yeah.
Good.
But if you're, again, the whole home generator thing, if those are up to 10, 20 grand now, maybe out of pocket for an extra battery or two really get you what you were looking for anyway.
Yes. Well, and I think battery costs are just going down over time too. I don't know if they're dropping as fast as inflation's going up, but
somewhere in there's some math crosses over.
Yeah. Good. Well, I think if you have solar, it empowers you to help. It empowers you to help, as time goes on. So
we don't have any life essential equipment in our house. We don't have, I don't know that I call CPAP an essential piece of equipment, but there are pieces of equipment for folks that are, oxygen generators and those kinds of things that it would allow you to be of help if somebody needed something like that. Or they just needed to charge their cell phone, or they just needed to, whatever, they would have access to some power, and you'd be able to, I joke with my neighbor, like, just get a long extension cord, bud, we'll plug you in and do what we can do.
Yeah. Good. Well, I hope this is helpful for those considering, looking into it.
Send your questions, look around. It does have its merits, but it does come with considerations too. So it's one of the options out there. It's worked for us. I'm sure there's other horror stories that people have, but also people love them. Yeah. And they work out really well. So keep it in mind.
I'll pray about it. Let's see.
Do your homework, bro.
Okay. Good.
All right. Well, join us next time on an exciting episode of Enough to Spare. We'll probably talk about Teslas, because now I want to know, with a couple of Teslas on the grid, how much does that influence the power bill?
Yes.
And how much its consumption increase? We'll end this episode today like we always do, with a favorite quote from a General Conference address in 1980. Ezra Taft Benson served as the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture under President Dwight D. Eisenhower from 1953 to 1961, and then as President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the church's 13th prophet from 1985 until his death in 1994 at age 94. He said, quote, "The revelation to produce and store food may be as essential to our temporal welfare today as boarding the ark was to the people in the days of Noah. Too often, we bask in our comfortable complacency and rationalize that the ravages of war, economic disaster, famine, and earthquake cannot happen here. Those who believe this are either not acquainted with the revelations of the Lord, or they do not believe them. Those who smugly think these calamities will not happen, that they somehow will be set aside because of the righteousness of the saints, are deceived and will rue the day they harbored such a delusion." End of quote.